So you couldn't find anyone else then, right? 6 times. Good morning. It's great being first, actually, because I get a chance to just relax and listen to Johnny and Grant later on. So I'm looking forward to that. Why is it 6 times, I guess? Facebook are delighted to be part of the Sales Institute. I've been working with the Institute for many years. But for us, it's important that we're part of the sales leadership community in Ireland. I've been working in Ireland for many years, although in different companies. Although Facebook is international, we really are serious about being part of the local community here. And this is why we're so interested in being part of these sessions. So we do really value and appreciate the invitations to come back. And the first time we spoke about social, as the Institute likes to call it, because I don't call it that, was back in 2012 at your annual conference, when we began to talk about and introduce what Facebook was. And we spoke a number of times. It's always March. So March in 2015, we spoke about the future of marketing, making marketing personal again. In 2016, this time last year, we spoke about how visual communication began to influence how people were communicating online and offline. And actually we did a session in December also around data and insights and analytics, and how insights and analytics was driving not only the sales strategy but marketing strategy. And I'm invited back today to talk about social selling. The only caveat I have with this time around is generally, when we've spoken before, I don't speak a lot about Facebook. I tend to try and keep more general industry trends. But Dave and the team asked me to speak more specifically about Facebook today, because that's some of the feedback you've been given, that you walk away with maybe some interesting points of view from us, but nothing in relation to what would you do with Facebook if you had to use it. So that's the caveat. There's a bit of a more detailed example of Facebook ads and our solutions. It's not an explicit sale. It is generally an attempt to inform. So if I am overselling, just raise your hand and tell me to stop. So episode 6. Just myself, Region Director of Central Europe, as it's called now. We just changed the title. Just FYI, what that includes is all the markets that are Germany, Austria, Switzerland, the Benelux countries, and Central and Eastern Europe. So it's about 34 countries that we manage from my team here. And it's growing at different paces. Germany is the biggest, but the fastest growing is actually Russia for us. And it's been a bit of time there, if you want to ask me that later on. So the first thing to anchor it, and I've talked about this a few times, is mobile. And really, when we talk about social, it's really mobile. Mobile online, and it's accelerating. You know, some of the statistics you can see there, how fast it took various different pieces of technology to get to 50 million users, with smartphones being the fastest, obviously, and it's getting faster. In fact, the number of SIM cards or phones in the world is growing with 5 times faster than the population is growing. There's only 7.4 billion people in the world. There's almost 8 billion SIMs. And there are about 105 countries where the number of phones is bigger than the population of that country. There's 206 countries in the world, and 105 got more phones. Also, I found out the other day there's more phones in the world than there are toothbrushes for some strange reason. And the time spent on those devices is increasing. There's a number of people, I believe, here from 3 today. You know this. I mean, you can see it for your own usage statistics. On average, it's 3+ hours per day. TV in Ireland is 2.5 hours today on average. So people are spending more time on TV, or more time on their phones than they are on TV, and probably at the same time. If there's bad feedback, can you let me know? It's echoing for me if it's bad for you. Is it okay? Yeah, okay. So we kind of all know this, right? But there's just some numbers behind it. But there's a real trend for particularly younger people about this real fear of being offline and a fear of being disconnected, which highlights the importance of these devices. This is a word, I had to look it up to see was it official, or was it one of these making up Facebook words? It actually is an official word, nomophobia. It emerged as a word and a term back in 2010 when there's some early psychographic, psychometric tests being done on teenagers in the US, and what was causing stress in their life, and being away from the mobile phone was one of the stresses. It's been submitted for the Institute of Psychology in the US as a study. Is it a real phobia or not? But it's just interesting how important these devices are. So that gives the context of what I want to talk about. You know, if you're trying to sell and you're trying to market, how do you connect? How should you connect? And how do you evaluate the importance of those connections? Which is the reason for the title of my presentation, which is earning those connections that count. And there are three pillars what I want to talk about. They're adopting a new visual language, building up what I spoke about this time last year. It's considering and understanding the new paths to purchase. If you are trying to sell, what is the path to purchase and how important is mobile within that journey? And really importantly, the most difficult part is how do you prove it? How do you measure? How do you know where to invest your sales and marketing money to optimize that path? And I think Johnny's going to talk about something similar a little bit later on in terms of multi-device and multi-channel. Again, I'm going to make it very Facebook-centric in terms of examples. Facebook isn't the only thing in the world, I know that. There are other platforms beyond Facebook. And I'll refer to that, but I won't give you examples of that. So first of all, the new visual language. When we spoke in March, did anyone have a chance to either look at or attend last March's session for the Institute? Nobody? Okay. Well, we spoke about visual communications and how communicating online, on phone, is all visual. There's no text anymore. It's all visual, it's all imagery. And there are emerging categories of imagery. It's either expressive, and the example I show there is Messenger, person-to-person messaging, which is exploding, and even using emoticons and little graphics to express emotions, which is very personal. It's what we call immersive, and showing an example of 360-degree video, surround video on Facebook that ABC News is using. Or it's inspirational and personal, very personal stories in Instagram feed, for example. Now, I hazard to guess that most people in this room either have used Facebook at some point or use it today or will use it today. You will know from using our service that it's all imagery. It's all photos, it's rich photographs, and it's lots of video, very few text. And that's the way people are choosing to communicate to their friends and family, and that's how businesses are choosing to communicate as well. What I want to talk about is actually how you keep those connections. Really bad feedback, sorry. We know, if you look at the way Facebook works, you know, you get your phone, you've got your phone in portrait mode, you open your newsfeed and you scroll with your thumb. And you can scroll quite quickly. In fact, we know that if you're under 35, you scroll 2.5 times more quickly than if you're over 50. So you're a fast scroller. That's a statistic we can measure. So the real challenge as a marketer, as a salesperson, is how do you get people to absorb and stop on your content or your message? And we know for sure that video works much better than static imagery. In fact, Kantar World Media, where this study is from, shows that people actually absorb video 5 times quicker, or much more quicker, and stay in it 5 times longer than static imagery. So video is really important in this world where there's too much content and people won't bother to stop if it's going to occupy more than a couple of seconds of their life. So in the Facebook family, and I use that term intentionally because Facebook as a company actually owns a number of platforms. We call it the family of apps and services. So the first is Facebook, the blue app that hopefully you use on your phone, where using video can help you connect as a local business to people who are close by. If you're working for the Davenport Hotel, you can actually market the fact that the Davenport is a fantastic venue for an event or a place to stay if you're in 2 kilometers of the space. So you can actually target people close by with nice video imagery. If you are an Instagram user, typically Instagram usually is far more pictorially rich, creatively rich. It's a very inviting, enjoyable environment. So creating inspirational content with clever photography is really important. If you're using Messenger, and Messenger is huge here, but businesses haven't quite adopted it yet because we haven't rolled it out, but elsewhere we are enabling people like the Hyatt Hotel Group to actually establish a relationship with their clients using Messenger. So if you've booked a hotel, you get the booking straight in Messenger. KLM, which is an airline I'm working with, when you book online or book through Facebook a ticket, KLM will actually send you the boarding pass through Messenger. And the beauty about that is, compared to text, is that if you look at the history of your conversation with KLM, it'll go back forever. It's what we call a pervasive and permanent history of a conversation, so you can always find them. And lastly, the world isn't just Facebook. There are other platforms, other technology, digital experiences people use, but we are bridging and allowing companies and organizations to actually get their message to platforms off Facebook through Facebook, using the same Facebook identity. There's an example of Shazam, and the ad you might not see, but see here from Uniqlo. It was actually placed on Facebook, and we can place it elsewhere based on the targeting. So there's lots of platforms reaching people in different moments, different times, in different ways. What is consistent is visual, and it's visual communications and more importantly, video. Just to give you some examples of some of the brands we're working with and some richer examples of what they might look like, and show you three. So on the right-hand side is Burberry, high-end luxury brand that some of you actually might be wearing. And what you see there is, what you saw was Burberry was in a Facebook feed. But the feed size, the imagery is quite tight in space, right? You can't do an awful lot with it except capture attention. If you wanted to go deeper, we're allowing a company to create almost like an online brochure by going to Canvas, something called Canvas, which is it's not off Facebook, it's inside Facebook, but it creates a richer kind of experience for the product, almost like a product catalog. And we know, again, for statistics, that people will dwell for at least 25 to 35 seconds in Canvas out of feed than they would inside feed. So it's very engaging way of capturing attention. The middle one is, middle one is video on Instagram. What's interesting, what happened with video is, you know, the idea of video advertising was really, the modern thoughts around it were created in the 50s when TV advertising and soap operas were born. I can give you some history around that later if you're interested. But that created the concept of the 30-second ad, which is still the thinking and the general thesis of how advertising works. It has to be 30 seconds, and how the 30 seconds works is, you create a lead-up story in the first 20 seconds, and you do the whiz bang, and there's your product in the last 5 or 10. The story arc finishes at the end. And you know from what I said that people don't watch videos that long on a feed-based environment. You know, if you get them for 5 seconds, you're lucky. So with video, you have to chunk it up in different ways and reverse the story and tell the message at the start as opposed to the end. Also deal with environments where people use Facebook in busy environments, in work, in the office, and the car, at home, where the actually sound is sometimes off. In fact, sound is often off. So how do you use video with a message when the sound is off by default? And so there's different creative thinking required for video. And lastly, I'm showing you something called carousel ads, where if you're a store that sells multiple products, it's very difficult to break a single store's offering into one picture and one image on feed. So it's now possible to actually put your product catalog in something called carousel, and you scroll across with your thumb horizontally to see more detail and actually potentially purchase right there and then. I'm going to show more examples of that a little bit later on. But the point about this all is, and it's borne out by lots of luminaries that are looking at the future of the internet, and Mary Meeker, who you know, I'm sure, if you read about from Kleiner Perkins, who does this annual treatise on the future of the internet and the future of digital, said this last year, that, you know, search is important, but text-based search as a proportion of what people do is going to decline to find your product or service. It's all about discovery, it's all about imagery and potentially speech in the future. Partly driven by people's behaviors online, and partly driven by form factor. It's difficult to type in on the screen sometimes. In fact, because you don't have to anymore, people don't do it anymore. So search and imagery are really important. And to give an example, this is one of 3 examples I want to try and get to this morning, because proof and real examples of another piece of feedback you've given us. You want to see what's working. This is a client, Tesco, you know. Valentine's Day last year, they were trying to encourage menfolk to buy food and bring it home and cook it. What they did was, with Facebook, create a nice little punchy video that brought a user into Canvas, and through Canvas you could see various different meal options by scrolling across, and then through Canvas you could actually buy online all the ingredients for that meal, or go to the store and pick it up yourself. And I'm showing some stats. They are brand and ad recall statistics that we measured, the impact of this. It was only done on Facebook, so it's easy to isolate that it was a Facebook effect. No other platform was used to do this. So 17-point increase in product awareness, 11-point increase in ad recall, and 10-point increase in consideration. Now, anyone from advertising in this room? Good. So now I can actually tell you something that I don't have to verify. When you look at brand advertising, a good campaign, in fact a fantastic campaign, will usually give you awareness uplift, ad recall uplift, or consideration uplift of 2 or 3 points. greater than 3 is fantastic. If you've got 3, that's a major success. To get triple that amount on any platform is actually a very, very amazing. That's because of the reach and the time spent on the platform. So that's an example of Tesco. So the second pillar of what I want to talk about is the path to purchase. Excuse me. It's something we talked about 2 years ago and we talked about, is there a difference between sales and marketing anymore? In the old world, the marketing guys did all the campaigns. If you're in the B2C world, it was the success was driving people to a store, getting footfall into the store, and the store would do the job of converting the salesperson to the store, or the display in the store, or even the offer in the store. If you're in the B2B world, the marketing guy's job essentially was to create leads that then your field-based sales team would ring and set up an appointment or complete the sale. But there's always distinction between sales and marketing, and there's a very distinct journey from awareness to consideration, and then education and conversion. There's always a 4-layer breakdown of the pipeline. We actually don't think there's a separation of sales and marketing anymore. It's all the same thing. It's the same journey, but it can be a random journey. That's the point. So thinking about, again, the B2C world, some statistics that back up what you probably already know and see, that most shopping journeys, most purchase journeys involve mobile at some point. GfK, who are a research company that we work with in Germany and around Europe, through a study last year said 45% of all shopping journeys contain a mobile action, either to find out what the store is, to find out what the price is, to find out what the options of the product are before you get there, to find out, even if you're in an area or in a town or a mall, what might be interesting to go and see. So discovery as well as search. We know that from PwC that 88% of all millennials, so those people who are born in the 1980s, will access mobile while they're actually shopping before they make a decision. And the last statistic is from a US research company called eMarketer that says even if people are watching TV and TV viewing time is either plateauing or in Ireland decreasing, they're actually also using a device of some sort, probably a tablet. So that's all we know that. It's just statistics back it up. What does that mean? I'm going to show you a couple of examples. This is based on a research study we did with Kantar World Media Panel as well, which showed that when you look at mobile, and trying to engage people and bring people through the purchasing life cycle, video works the best on mobile. So examples of what I gave earlier on. And this is an example of Sam Calder. She's looking at ShopBop on Facebook. It's a carousel ad, I explained, so a product catalog that you can scroll horizontally through your feed. But the carousel ad contains video, and this video is short little 3-second videos of a lady wearing a nice dress or some clothing. And she can actually browse that, and actually if she decides to shop there right now or get a coupon to go to the store. But look at Sam's journey. It is non-linear. She might not want to buy an orange dress, but she sees it, discovers it on Facebook, and it brings her through the journey. And that word discover is important. And that's why I said this morning that I don't quite fully agree that we're in the area of social selling. We don't like to think of Facebook as a social network anymore. It is a social network, of course, because there's great social utility and connectivity there. But we find that we like to think about Facebook from a business point of view as a discovery platform, a massive scale discovery platform, not just a social platform. But she can browse the dresses on her desktop. She probably uses a laptop as well. She might add a cart to her online store, but not check out, just keep it there, just a placeholder. Go back and check later on. She might go to research other places she could buy that dress, leave it there for a couple of days, couple of weeks, come back, maybe decide to purchase it. So and she could go back and forth a number of times before deciding on that orange dress. And we all do this. Buying a dress is a simple use case. Travel is more complicated. We know from the travel industry that usually, this is through research we do a company called Skift to do market research on travel purchases. Usually for a trip, it takes a person about 6 weeks to book it after initial research, and they probably go back and forth 56 times through the pipeline before they actually book that final trip. So it's back, forth, look at TripAdvisor for reviews, look at Ryanair, Aer Lingus, eventually decide to book the trip. So it's very complicated back and forth. It's very non-linear. And the path is very hard to predict. Which makes return on investment and planning very, very difficult. It's very difficult to plan where to put your dollars or euros to make sure you optimize or get the best bang for your buck, because it's so complicated. So and the way the world used to think about it, like I said, way sales and marketing used to be separated. In digital marketing, we used to separate what we call direct response or performance marketing, i.e. getting people to buy online, conversion, from brand or awareness. There were two different things. So you might, for example, have used YouTube or maybe even Facebook in the old days to do display, or RT.ie or irishtimes.com, whatever. And that's creating awareness. TV will create awareness. But then you might actually put a lot of money into search or pigsback.com or even your own website to actually get conversion. And they're two different teams, two different budgets. But because of the complex path to purchase, it's probably not relevant anymore because it's back and forth all the time. So our recommendation is to think about it in an integrated way. There's no separation anymore between direct response, performance marketing, and search or display or awareness budgets. They should be the same thing. And what I'm showing you is an example of a gaming company that I'm working with called Kabam, huge gaming company, particularly in Asia Pacific. And what they're doing there is a video launching a new game, which is typically part of the awareness part of a marketing funnel. Just making people aware of the game, but it's combined with an install now button to actually get conversion right there and then. It's integrated. Awareness and conversion are part of the same thing. And the point about this is just like we should be integrating our sales and marketing teams because they're not separate, in our marketing teams they should be integrated across awareness, demand generation, acquisition and transaction because of the journey. It's almost like if you're a head of sales, a sales director, a marketing director, whatever, in fact, what you should be doing, you should be focused on, is you're actually the director of the customer journey. You're directing, controlling, measuring, and influencing the customer journey all the way through the purchase funnel. And that's a separate topic around organizational design and investment we can talk about later on. The third pillar, some examples, sorry. So again, caveat, this is a very Facebook-centric. If we look across the awareness, demand generation, acquisition, and transaction breakdown, show you examples across the Facebook family, the Facebook stack. I should say in Ireland that just if you're interested, because people generally ask, today on Facebook we know that there's probably going to be about 2.2 million people on platform today, about 2.1 on mobile. So Ireland in Facebook world is actually very, very skewed towards mobile. It's one of the most mobile penetrated markets that we have Facebook in. There's about 2.7 million people on Facebook every month, but 2.1 every day. And if to reach those people, for example, Marks and Spencer's use video on Instagram. We had the cosmetics firm L'Occitane using Canvas on Facebook for demand generation. We had, let me replay that video because you didn't quite see it, the middle ad. For acquisition, we had something called a lead ad. So for example, if you're a garage, best example, we're working with BMW, you can create a local ad for Joe Duffy, North Dublin for BMW, and straight from that Facebook ad, you can create a lead, so a person can just press a button to book a test drive or book an appointment. And the beauty about doing it directly in Facebook is there's no friction. What I mean by that is there's no form filling to be done, because usually when people choose to do that, they're quite happy to share their identity, their name, because their name is important for their identity on Facebook. And generally their telephone number is also logged. They have the permission to share that or not. And you can book that test drive there and then. For mobile app installs, this is off Facebook. Actually install now, I showed you that earlier on. And then transaction is Canvas and Carousel. So putting your product catalog on Facebook and letting people to buy and select it there and then. So awareness through to transaction, all in one platform. More importantly, all controlled and decided by one team inside a client. So the difficulty with some of this stuff is the technology is the enabler. Sometimes the blocker is how people and organizations are organized and how budgets are broken down. Because often it isn't one team that does all of this, it's different teams inside an organization. So last, there's the animation. There's the lead ad, okay. Second example is Garmin. Garmin is the wearable devices company. We're launching a watch last year called the Phoenix Watch, and they use use Instagram for awareness and use Facebook for carousel ads and buying the watch very successfully, with almost a 10 times return on ad spend. And again, just to put context, if you get a 2 times return on ad spend in general channels, that's really good. Get 10 is actually unprecedented. A click-through rate on ads of 2%, again, compares to the average of 0.01%. So it's 20 or 30 times more effective. And the cost per view on dollar terms is really cheap. Worked really well. The Phoenix watch is very successful in America. It's coming to Europe soon. And Vodafone, I'm responsible for Germany. So Vodafone in Germany are a huge client of ours. So I'm showing you a German example where they're trying to connect and acquire and build loyalty for its mobile and broadband product sets for the millennial generation and younger. And it ran a campaign exclusively on Facebook for 8 weeks for awareness, consideration, conversion, that worked successfully. Again, very high numbers in relation to awareness and purchase intent. So we know it works. We know it works. We know when it doesn't work. And it doesn't always work. And there are a number of factors that are at play. But one of the main reasons why it doesn't always work is, one, being clear on your targeting, who you're trying to reach, defining your target audience, and number 2, creative. If the video wasn't relevant, it was too long, was boring, wasn't enthralling, we know it doesn't work. So it's not just about the platform, but how you think about the visual message you're trying to articulate. Third pillar, and lastly, is the paths, how to measure and predict and control those paths through purchase. And it's getting complicated. We had Jake from Pepsi at a meeting in Ireland recently. He was talking about the challenge that Pepsi have, in that they have huge marketing budgets. You know, they might invest in 4 pieces of video creative during the year and spend a lot of money on it and do a lot of research to make sure it's the right video for the right audience in the right market. And it's just upside down now because the frequency and the audience size and the need to move at speed, and can read what he says there now, it's very difficult even for big companies to create this stuff. In fact, I would argue that it's actually easier for smaller companies to do it because they don't have the legacy. But if you've got this large marketing budget, where do you spend it? And this has always been a challenge for the industry. Right through, to when print was established as a medium. What we used for metrics were readers, radio was listeners, TV was some sort of approximation on audience using Nielsen ratings. And when digital started, maybe with Google back in 1994, click-through rates, the CTRs as they're called, were used as measures. And now in this world where, I think Johnny's going to talk about it, this cross-device, cross-channel, connected world we live in is very hard to measure. Click-through rates and cost per click are no longer good measures because people are working across channels. So we're moving to a world where return on investment, sales and uplift is really important, which is why I showed you the previous 3 case studies on uplift. They're the metrics that matter, not clicks. Clicks is a very bad proxy for what's happening. And one of the things that was created when digital was created in 1994 was how to attribute, how to measure the effect of digital. And the only proxy we had was clicks. You couldn't really tell because there's no identity who viewed the ad, so you had no idea. The only way you could tell if someone had engaged with your ad or had taken action based on your search was to click the link. So clicks became the proxy for marketing success. And we know that on average, on studies, that the people that actually end up buying your product online, if it was, only 1% have clicked on the ad. But most of the models that we have to measure success out there are based on click attribution, and more importantly, last click attribution. Most websites can tell where the traffic came from, the last website that they came from, and usually it's Google. So they see it came from Google, therefore Google or search gets all of the budget because they think that the person's converted because they searched. But we know based on the path to purchase that the search bit was probably the very last bit, and there's probably in travel 55 other things they've done before they get to that point. So you're putting your marketing budget in the least effective place, and you should be investing earlier. So how do we deal with all of that? Well, and this is my last slide, from a measurement perspective, the first thing, and the story we've been telling for the past 6 episodes in our time at the Institute, is focus on people. Identity-based marketing focuses on people, not cookies. Cookies are what gets dropped on your desktop when you search websites. It doesn't give you a real picture of who you are as a person, what your interests are, and cookies don't work on mobile. We already know mobile is where everyone is, so you can't focus on cookies, focus on people. Measure metrics that matter. Don't measure clicks. Certainly last click is a very inaccurate way of dissecting your marketing budget. Focus on metrics that matter. If you're in the retail space, store visits. If you're in the cross omni-channel world, it's return on investment, it's return on ad sales, it's return on marketing investment, real metrics that probably your accounting finance department is interested in. And lastly, make sure that in the context of the marketing funnel, think about integration across all of the platforms, all of the stages to integration and omni-channel. And that's where I want to finish, because my time is just up. So what do we talk about? What I tried to do is, in the context of our invitation to the Institute, talk about our story of building over the past 6 times you've been here. It's all consistent and it all fits together. It's all about mobile, it's all about identity, it's all about visual communications and being part of the visual journey. It's understanding and being aware of the very complex pathways that exist in purchase these days, and what that implication might be for how you think about marketing and sales and bringing them together, and how you think about the marketing funnel being integrated from awareness through to transaction. And lastly, the complexity that exists in measurement, and not to rely on last click attribution as a useful proxy. So people-based measurement, real metrics that count, and being conscious of the multi-channel world that we all live in. So that's where I'd like to finish and hand over to Johnny. Thank you.